If you watched the show yesterday, you're probably shocked that an FBI agent jumped into our story, probing around with our Cory Mills sources, and the Bureau told us they knew nothing about it. So here to give us his insider insight here for the FBI's, one of our best friends, is FBI whistleblower Steve Friend. So Steve, thanks so much for joining us. I know that you've been following along with this story. So what did you make of this latest twist and turn in our saga here, along with Congressman Cory Mills?
This should shock the conscience of anybody who believes that the FBI should be, or in fact now has been renovated into an objective force for good. The fact of the matter is that the conduct of this agent, the fact that she engaged in either off the books or some sort of coercive investigative matter, a sensitive investigative matter, and involved herself in a deprivation of rights, a color of law violation, speaks volumes of the fact that the rot exists not just at the very tippy top of the FBI. It can't just be a change in leadership, but there needs to be a full vetting and fumigation of what has gone on there for a number of years.
So for the folks following at home, of course, this FBI agent represented herself as doing an investigation, an official investigation for the FBI. She was with the FBI, and she was telling sources. Her sources were people who were speaking out against Cory Mills and doing research on his record. She told them that she was investigating the congressman, and eventually they thought maybe she's actually investigating us. And at this point, no one knows what exactly she was doing because this was apparently off the books. So a lot of questions for you, Steve. But first, what would an FBI agent do in an actual investigation? What would they have? What steps would they have to take if they were going around talking to these sources about the congressman?
It would be extra sensitive because it involves numerous parties that would make this type of an investigation, regardless of who the subject is or the victim is, in this case, a sensitive investigative matter. So there's extra scrutiny, extra layers of bureaucracy, because any sort of investigation that involves a politician, a foreign official, somebody of high public esteem or prominence, a member of the media, a religious organization, those are called SIMs, S-I-M, sensitive investigative matter. So the agent who was assigned to that case would need to get some sort of approval from not just their frontline supervisor, but all the way up to the special agent in charge of their entire division, as well as coordinate with members of the United States Attorney's Office or the Department of Justice at the very outset of the case. So if this is an on the up and up sort of case, there are multiple people across the FBI and the United States Attorney's Office or DOJ who were aware of this case. Now, if it's off the books, that's completely off the rails entirely. But let's just say it's on the up and up. At that point, then there would be a case opening and a EC, which is an electronic communication, which you would enter into the FBI software, which is called Sentinel, to start your case, where you would explain the nature of the crime or the allegation of the crime and the justification for you conducting the investigation. And then you would use whatever tools that you were deemed to be investigatively necessary in order to bring about a judicious and quick and speedy investigation of that violation.
Now, is there any way that an FBI agent could just kind of poke around on their own? I mean, without filing anything? Like, can you just say, I'm interested in this topic. I'm going to go have coffee with someone and ask them about it?
Sure. I mean, there's always these sorts of ways that cases can begin. I mean, you want to go through a fact-finding effort, at least in the very, very modicum stages of it. I mean, you'd have conversations with law enforcement or maybe the first reporting party. But whatever the actions you took, especially for something like this where it involves a political figure or a member of the media, it would be documented just to memorialize it because it is so sensitive. So it might not, in fact, lead to the opening of a preliminary investigation or actually a full investigation, but at the very least should be documented and a justification for the actions that you took. And then if you wanted to shut it down, the decision that you made and the justification behind that.
So we know for a fact that this agent, Shay Talley-Bradley, was given a lot of names, and she actually didn't go through and contact all of those names, all the contact information that she was given. So if you were told as an FBI agent that had an open investigation, these are former or current primary sources in investigation that you're looking into, would it be highly unusual to not follow through with at least contacting them at least one time?
It would be extremely inappropriate and unprofessional to do that. You have that sort of information at your fingertips. You would want to pursue all angles, again, as much information into hand as you possibly can so that you can make an adequate judgment on whether or not the case should be pursued further or if it should be shut down at this point. The fact that there were numerous people who were named and in fact were willing to speak with this agent indicates that at the very least, if there was in fact a justifiable reason for opening this case, she just didn't do a very professional job of doing it.
Now, she told everyone that at first she was going after she was digging into stolen valor claims, and then she changed it to say, now I'm going after, looking into his business dealings. Do you have any comment on that? Does that make sense to you? I mean, what kind of cases does the FBI, would an agent be digging around for?
The second half makes way more sense to me than a stolen valor allegation. I'm really not briefed up well on any sorts of federal crime that might violate, but public corruption, complex financial crimes, someone in a position of public trust, that's exactly the reason why the FBI exists. So to look into a congressman for those sorts of allegations makes sense to me. Even partnering with a compatriot over at Department of Defense just because of the nature of the original crime or the stolen valor accusations. And on top of that, the arms dealing, you'd want to have somebody who perhaps has a greater subject matter expertise than you. But the public corruption angle, to me, would make the most sense if it in fact was a justifiable investigation. But again, we're back to sensitive investigative matter. And this agent did not alert anybody from what we can understand.
So yesterday, our Steve Baker, the investigative reporter that he is, found that Agent Shay Talley-Bradley was going to be out speaking at a Memorial Day event. And Steve actually got to catch up with this agent. So I want to get your analysis on this video. Let's watch it.
Sir.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Very, very well. So, you're also an FBI agent, aren't you?
I don't know, sir.
Well, I would be curious as to what your thoughts are on the current Bongino Cash Patel administration.
I don't have any, sir. I appreciate it.
You don't have any comments on that whatsoever?
No, sir.
Are you aware that Blaze Media just came out with a story about you today and your relationship to Congressman Cory Mills?
I still have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
You have no idea what I'm talking about. Is it true that you tried to recruit a source as an undercover operative to investigate a Blaze Media journalist?
Sir, I still have no idea what you're talking about.
You have absolutely no idea what
But
I'm
I
talking
appreciate you coming, and I thank you so much.
All right. So as an FBI agent, take us what you see in that video. What stands out to you about that interaction?
Well, a couple of things immediately come to mind. First of all, she's an FBI agent who's apparently walking around unarmed, which should speak volumes of the type of caliber of person who is entering into federal law enforcement at this point. From what I understand, the speech that she was delivering, it was a Memorial Day event. She spoke to the fact that she's a veteran of the armed services and she suffers from post-traumatic stress syndrome and has required lots of counseling to deal with that, which, again, you got to scratch your head why we're issuing a security clearance and potentially a firearm, even though she just chooses not to carry it, to a person who could be suffering from that sort of disorder. As she's talking to your compatriot there, Steve Baker, the FBI furnishes you credentials. You're not a secret agent. As much as you might be working on things that you think are secret or classified, you're supposed to furnish those credentials upon request to anyone. You're supposed to be a public servant. And the fact that she's denying that, I think it also speaks volumes, again, to her character and the fact that she knows she's caught up in this. And you cut the video a little bit early, but I believe she laid hands on Steve Baker at one point, and I don't think that was a wanted human contact. I'd be interested to know if he was going to file some sort of complaint.
Steve, he's not a complainer, but I don't know what he'll do in this case. So before we talk about possible implications here, there's also the curious way in which she conducted the interviews. I know, I think you've read the articles that we've written on this, but just to rehash, I mean, she used text messages. There was apparently no recordings, or she never said she was recording anyone. Showed up at one person's house, had some, Starbucks meetings. Was there anything odd about any of that?
Well, the FBI does not require you to actually record your interactions or your interviews, and that's something that I would actually like to see the Department of Justice, maybe an Ed Martin type, bring about, because let's memorialize everything. But to meet with people face to face, that's the proper way to actually conduct an interview. To do so solo, it's unusual. Normally, when you are working in an office with multiple people, as this agent does in Orlando, then the standard operating procedure is to bring a second agent with you, or maybe another member of law enforcement, just for safety protocols. It's not required, but again, for someone who's not carrying a firearm, might be a good idea to have somebody else in the room. Any sort of other communications via the phone or an email, those are allowable, but it should be under extreme circumstances, particularly for a sensitive investigative matter. And never in my career as an FBI agent, I do anything like conduct an interview via text messages. That seems wholly inappropriate. And if she used her bureau-issued cell phone, that's going to be memorialized permanently, which should probably be referred over to the Office of the Inspector General.
Well, let's get into some of the possible implications. Where does it all go from here, Steve? That's what we all want to know, because these are the questions that we still can't answer here at Blaze Media. But I would love to know from you, if this does turn out to be a situation where it is a rogue FBI agent at hand, then what should we expect to see next?
I think there's going to be a lot more of aggressive reaction to this just by reading between the lines of what the FBI has said publicly. They sort of disavowed her. They didn't really circle the wagon. So just from a procedural standpoint on the inside, she should probably be referred over to OPR, the Office of Professional Responsibility, for an investigation. Simultaneously, the Security Division should assess whether or not she should hold a security clearance. And if they indeed suspend or revoke it, then she'd be sort of out of a job at that point. There should be a referral over to the Office of the Inspector General. The problem there, though, is that they might take years to conduct an investigation and effectively wait out everything, and then ultimately make a referral or not to the Department of Justice for some sort of decision on prosecution. However, we are blessed with having a Harmeet Dillon over civil rights and Ed Martin now over weaponization at the DOJ. I see no reason why they couldn't take this up immediately and take some sort of action criminally against this agent, particularly for violating Title 18 United States Code 242. It's a deprivation of rights allegation. If she happened to conspire with somebody else, it could be a conspiracy against rights. That's a misdemeanor, could lead to up to a year in jail plus fines. Let's say she even ran background checks on anybody over at the Blaze for an investigation of people for engaging in their First Amendment protected activity, freedom of the press, freedom of speech. That, again, is a violation of database use. That's another deprivation of rights. So it could be a multiple count charge criminally against this agent.
Now, I mean, so if we play this out, if this is a rogue activity, then either she is investigating a congressman on her own, or she's investigating sources and possibly even folks at Blaze News, maybe one sitting right here next to me. So if that was actually happening, would the FBI inform anyone about it? I mean, my concern here is that we need to know the truth of this. We need to know what the purpose, for which she was acting, what she was doing, why she was doing it, was anyone else involved? And it would seem like if they found out that she was in fact going rogue on a congressman, the congressman should know about that. And if they found out that they were, she was investigating these sources, everyone involved should know about that.
Yeah, Steve, let me know if I should expect a phone call or not. Please let me know.
Well, look, the number one rule that you're taught pretty early on in the FBI is that you can get away with a lot. I mean, that up to includes apparently having child pornography on your devices or engaging in domestic spousal abuse and still keep your job as long as it doesn't come to public light. Do not embarrass the FBI. And the fact that this report came out yesterday from the Blaze, that's the cardinal sin in the FBI. So I think that they will take this up, and they will actually advise people who are involved in this case. And I think you should probably expect and demand a call and an update on this, because if you're the victim of a crime at the hands of an actor, a representative of the government who's duty-bound, swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, which includes the First Amendment, and protect you and Matt and all of us from fraud and force, and in fact, that person turned around and used the powers at her fingertips and weaponized them against you or against a sitting congressman for their own political reasons or for whatever reasons and justifications that she had, out of step with the law and with the policy, then she needs to be held not just accountable by losing her job and her security clearance, but she needs to be criminally charged, and then they're obligated to notify the victims of that.
Believe it or not, I actually hate being the center of attention. So I can't wait for this story to go, when we finally have the conclusion for it. So now let me turn the tables back on you, because this is much better for me. Yesterday on the Brianna Morello show, Brianna actually had Ed Martin, who you were talking about earlier, and they spoke about bringing back FBI whistleblowers. Let's take a look.
And I also appreciate you bringing up the whistleblowers because, Steve Friend, Garret O'Boyle, those are two men who I am trying to fight for and bring back into the agencies because these are great men. These two men need to be brought back. These are the type of people who could help you purge the corruption from these agencies. And so they should be at the forefront of all this.
I met yesterday on this topic of the whistleblowers, and we're going to fix it. And we're going to fix it because these guys are patriots. And I can tell you that you mentioned Dan and Cash, that they're on our side. I mean, there's things working through, and I guess I'll just say this: I have one speed, and my speed is fast, and so we'll get it worked out.
So I'll say we've heard this story before, right? But I do think that Brianna, Ed Martin, they're not fake news, right? They are the people that I would actually go through and say I trust what they're saying. What's your reaction to that video?
Well, I know Brianna Morella pretty well, and she's definitely dogged with this, and I'm totally grateful and appreciative of all of her efforts on this to try to hold people accountable. I've been out for 977 days, Garret O'Boyle 970 days. We could have actually gone to the FBI Academy each 7 times in this span. So all the talk about recruiting new agents, you got 2 guys here that bring a wealth of experience and knowledge. We're just making ourselves available for tasking. We haven't had any contact in that regard. We want to be a resource for guys like Ed Martin, Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, if they want to lean on us for our sorts of knowledge and insights about what the problems are. As I'm trying to provide information to you as well, I'm willing to do that. And we'll just have to see. But the fact that Ed Martin is saying that he's ready to work fast, that's not the speed of government. And that's always an encouraging thought.
We hope, we pray that it works fast and that you actually get reinstated if that is what you wish, because you're not just our friend, you're everybody's friend here. So we always appreciate your time. And you know what? If I have any of these personal questions, we'll just do it right here on the show because you're our personal FBI whistleblower.